Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over our NFC tier list for this season. Obviously we're still somewhat in the off season. Like I said before, I'm going to be doing another one of these videos right before the season comes out for both AFC and NFC. I already did my AFC. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and go check that video out. This time I'm going to go through NFC and we're going to go through each team and decide, in my opinion, where they fall for so far this season. So let's jump right into things. Alrighty, so we're going to start off with San Francisco. I personally I think they are a Super Bowl contending team. The only huge question mark for me is quarterback and their secondary. Their secondary is a little weak on our defense. Their pass rush is amazing. Their linebacking core is great. Their offense has a ton of weapons, but they have to figure out what they're going to do with their quarterback situation. Other than that, I mean, they took Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft from last year, and they got all super deep into the playoffs. So I think this team is very loaded. They just need to figure out that quarterback position. Moving on to Arizona, I think they're a next year team. I do not think that they're any threat to really any team. I think they're going to tank. I think they need a lot of help in order to get back to the playoffs or even make any kind of run in that case. Moving on to the Rams, I think they need a lot of help as well. I do think that they do have a shot because they do still have some playmakers, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, but they lost a lot of talent. Losing Jalen Ramsey, I think, was a huge loss, especially with the two-headed monster on defense. And their team is getting a lot older, and they're low on cap, really no cap at all. I don't think that they're really much of a threat either. Moving on to the Seahawks, I'm going to be a little biased here. I'm a big Seahawks fan, obviously, with the flag up back there. I honestly think that Seattle's had two great off seasons and drafts. I think we shocked everybody when we went 9-8 last year. I think with more experience for our previous rookies and the rookie class we just drafted with our secondary, I think we have this is going to be a hot take, I think we have the best secondary in the NFL. I know a lot of people are going to argue and say the Jets have a better secondary, but I just feel having the best corner in this year's draft and so on and so forth with the ones we had last year is just a lot better. With Jamal Adams coming back, Geno Smith's second year as a starter, with the weapons, including Jackson and Jigba that we just drafted, I think they are definitely a Super Bowl contending team. And honestly, again, it's going to be another hot take. I think Seattle is slightly better than San Francisco. A lot of people are going to disagree with that. San Francisco, they are a very talented team. I think Seattle is very talented as well, but we're younger. Moving on to Atlanta, I think Atlanta is going to also be tanking. I think they have good talent. I do like Desmond Ridder as a QB. I think they need a little bit more talent on defense and get some more weapons on offense to help that offense out and get a better offensive line. Moving on to the Panthers, I think the exact same thing. I think the Panthers are rebuilding. They had a solid draft. They got the QB that they wanted. But again, a new coach, new system. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get caught up on things. I love their head coach. I think he's really great. So I think give it a year or two and then they'll be a contender. I do think they're a lot better than Arizona. I don't think they're quite as good as Atlanta, but it's a flip of the coin on which team is better, honestly, and who would win a game. That's in my opinion. Tampa Bay, honestly, this division in the NFC for the Falcons, Panthers, Tampa Bay, and the Saints, honestly, is probably the weakest division in the NFC. If not, I think it is. I think Tampa Bay, again, they're trying to tank as well. They got Baker Mayfield as their starting QB. Their guys are also getting older. They've been pretty banged up every season. Ever since Tom left, they've kind of really fallen apart. I think Tampa Bay, honestly, I think Arizona is the worst team in the NFC and arguably the NFL, really. I even think the Texans could probably beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals really just don't have many weapons. I think Tampa has weapons, but they're older and they really can't stay healthy. They don't have many weapons. Moving on to the Saints, I think the Saints are definitely a team that just need a little bit more help. I think they're very close to a contender. They've upgraded really well with Derek Carr, but they need a couple more pieces. They're very cap struck because of the star level that they have. For the few stars that they do have, they are older. And again, it just comes down to how consistent can Derek Carr be. If Derek Carr can stay consistent in that system, they're a contender instantly. But again, it comes down to the Raiders with David Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're very similar, that they're very inconsistent. They can be really good one game and really bad a second game. So I'm going to put them at needs help, but they're right on the cusp of being contenders. Chicago, I honestly think they are, again, right outside of next year. I think Chicago is a lot better than these bottom 4 teams. They drafted offensive line, which is what they really needed. I think just need a couple more years under that system for their quarterback and get some more weapons. He needs a lot more help on offense, including maybe shutting down that defense. Who knows? Maybe the Vikings can send Danielle Hunter over to the Chicago, and that would be pretty huge. Just like when Khalil Mack came over to Chicago, that was a huge boost for them, and they were actually playoff contenders. Moving on to Detroit, I'm mixed on Detroit. I think they had a really spectacular end of the season last year. Again, for me, it's a lot more like Derek Carr, that I think they're very inconsistent. They've had quite a few players that are now going to be suspended due to gambling issues, so they're going to lose some talent there. Their quarterback situation, Goff, he's solid, but he's not a top tier quarterback. I think Carr is better. But in the division that they have, since Aaron Rodgers is gone now, with Chicago being down there, I'm going to put them on the outside of being a contender. Again, with the division and how well they played last season, I'm going to bank off of that, but I'm not quite sold on the Detroit Lions like a lot of other people are. Moving on to Green Bay, I think they just need a little bit of help. I think I heard something about that Green Bay wouldn't have moved on from Aaron Rodgers if they didn't feel Jordan Love was ready. I agree with that. I think Jordan Love has had plenty of time to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and learn and practice through the years. I think he's going to be a lot better than what people think. I don't think he's going to be like Aaron Rodgers level right off the bat, but it's going to take some time. He needs to get some more weapons on offense, like a wide receiver. He's got a running back. He needs a little help on the offensive line, and then they just got to keep building that defense. I know Green Bay is not much of a team or franchise to splurge in free agency or in the draft, but I think they need to reach out and try and get somebody. DeAndre Hopkins to Green Bay would be pretty huge as well. Moving on to the Vikings, I think they're going to win their division. I think it's a battle between the Lions and the Vikings. I think the Vikings have a better team, but their defense scares me. Kirk Cousins to me has a ceiling, and he's not going to get any higher than that, and that's around a mid-level to low-level playoff berth. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to get him over the edge. They have the talent. I think it was crazy that they got rid of Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook still has a lot more to offer, but again, it just comes down to the talent that they have. I think Detroit is young. They are on the upside, but they're just not as experienced as the Vikings are, and they don't have as much talent as the Vikings do. Moving on to the Giants, I think the Giants, honestly, they are contenders. I would put them just ahead of the Lions. I'm back and forth again, same as the Lions with the Giants. That division last year was a super surprise. I do not think that division for the NFC, for the Giants, Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, that division is not going to stay the same. One of these teams, or a few of these teams, are probably going to fall off. I would say the Giants are going to have to fill the safety position that Julian Love left. He's a huge asset to them. And Saquon's got to stay healthy. If Saquon does not stay healthy, they need help. They need help because Saquon carried that team last year. People can argue that Daniel Jones is the one that carried that team. I disagree. I think Saquon is what was the backbone of that team. Moving on with Philadelphia, it's completely easy to say that they're the best team in the NFC. They're loaded in every situation. Yeah, they lost some key pieces on defense, but I think that they're just so stacked when it comes to players that it's not going to really affect them. They had probably arguably one of the best drafts this last draft, so I think it's going to be between really the Eagles, Seahawks, and San Francisco when it comes to Super Bowl berths. Moving on to Washington, I think they need more time. I think they're probably better than the Bucks and Cardinals. I would say they're pretty equal with the Panthers and Falcons. They don't have a quarterback. Their defense is really good when they want to be. They're really inconsistent. They have weapons on offense. They just need to find that last piece. Last but not least, Dallas. I think Dallas is probably the best of the contenders on here, but I'm going to put them on the outside of the Super Bowl. I think if they have one more piece, the really big thing for me with Dallas is their running game. I don't trust Dak. I think Dak is also very inconsistent when his play. I think he tries a little too hard. But when it comes down to Tony Pollard's health, that's what's going to make or break this team. They made huge pickups for their wide receiving core and Brandon Cooks. Bringing in Stephon Gilmore, those are huge pickups. I think that's going to really improve this team. But again, it's going to come down to Tony Pollard and his health. I think this team is built to run more than it is really to pass. But here we go, guys. In pretty much this order. Again, I'm gonna do couple videos later on, possibly changing things around depending on where players in free agency land. But as of right now, Seattle, Philadelphia, San Francisco are the top tiers. Dallas, Minnesota, and the Lions are really my top contenders. I put the Giants up there just because, but again, it depends on Saquon Barkley. And same with the Saints. I think they could get there as well. But alright guys, till the next video.